This summer, my friend Michel called me up and was complaining about not being able to get affordable tickets to the Dope and Static X show in Denver as it was already sold out. I looked up online and suggested that we go to New Orleans for the show at the House of Blues. Tickets there were only $25. This would end up being my 8th trip to New Orleans. I decided to see some things that I hadn't before, as well as take Michel to some of the must-sees in New Orleans. I got in the day before Michel. Checked into the Best Western St. Christopher Hotel, which isn't my typical place to stay, but there weren't any double beds at the French Market Inn this trip. So I took my customary stroll up Royal Street. I love all the art galleries. Then I went to the Memorial Hall Confederate Civil War Museum. Lovely collection of Civil War artifacts. Many battle flags, which I love to see. The thing that struck me as strange is that documents mentioned that the pelican was used as a symbol for the groups that supported slavery. I wonder how long it'll be before people start objecting to it on the state flag and the name of the local basketball team. I then went to the Ogden Museum of Southern Art next door. It was also fabulous. That evening I walked to the Smoothie King Center, which is by the Superdome, to see the Jonas Brothers. It took about 40 minutes and I stopped in at Dave & Buster's along the way. I was hoping to see my cousin from California while I was there, but it didn't work out. But the show was fantastic. I enjoyed getting to see them a second time, and Baby Rexha was incredible. Michel showed up about midnight on Tuesday night. The next morning I took her down to Jackson Square and had the obligatory beignets at Café du Monde. Then we walked over and checked out the Mississippi River. Then we walked down Royal Street, me for the second time this trip. Then we stopped for a cheese plate and drinks at the Napoleon House. Then we went to the House of Blues for the Dope show, one of the great small venues to see a show in the USA. My first time was there seeing the Neville Brothers during Mardi Gras in 2001. The show put on by Dope and Static X was a lot of fun to see. What a complete change from the Jonas Brothers the night before. The next morning we stopped at the House of Blues gift shop, and to pick up my friend's credit card, which she had advertently left at the bar the night before. Then we went down to the Gumbo House for lunch. However, when we got there, the street was packed. They were filming a Mardi Gras scene for the show Filthy Rich, which stars Kim Cattrall. The restaurant had a long line of people waiting, and I didn't want to wait. We did find a great shop called Skull Paradise. Michel and I both bought things there. Also met the owner. She made a great recommendation for us to go to Frenchmen Street, as I hadn't been there before. That evening we went on a ghost tour with free tours by foot. We learned about the New Orleans fire, stopped by the Lorelei Mansion and heard the stories of the atrocities there. There is also a season of American Horror Story based on it, which Michel and I are both fans of. Then we stopped by Murrow's on Jackson Square and heard about the table set for a ghost each night. Overall, a very fun tour. Afterwards, we cruised up and down Bourbon Street, buying and drinking frozen things. Our final stop of the evening was at the old Absinthe House, which I'm surprised I'd never been to before because I love absinthe. The final day with Michel, we walked back down to the Lorelei Mansion and took some more pictures. We also stopped to have a purple drink at Lafitte's Black Shop Bar, the oldest bar in New Orleans. We then went back to the old absinthe house that night to try a flight of different absinthes. That's something I'll have to do again. We then went down to Frenchmen Street. It was great to see music venues there that used to be found on Bourbon Street before Cochina. There was also a great art market there. It was a lot of fun to see the surprise on Michelle's face when we met the artist that she had fallen in love with when we were on Royal Street earlier in the day. We made one more stop at the old Absinthe House. I then forced us to turn in around 1 a.m. as Michelle's flight left the next morning at 8 a.m. My flight didn't leave till 6 p.m. the next day, so I knew that if I didn't get some sleep, that I'd be completely worthless the next day. In years past, I had no issue staying up on Bourbon Street till the sun came up. The bars don't have a typical 2 a.m. closing times that you see in most other cities. In one of my past trips, I heard a rumor that the city told the establishments how long they had to stay open when they got their liquor license. But I can't stay up that late anymore. I got Michel off to the airport the next morning. I'm sure her mom was happy to hear that she was safely on her way home. I spent my last day going to the St. Louis Cathedral, the Cabildo, and the Presybtere. Walked by all three of these buildings several times and had never gone into them. They were built in the 1790s. Overall, I walked about 30 miles the week that I've been in New Orleans. There are quite a number of things I've done on past trips I'd recommend doing. The Audubon Aquarium of the Americas, the World War II Museum, Blaine Kern's Mardi Gras Road, taking a swamp or airport tour, taking a tour of the Garden District, St. Louis Cemetery No. 1, eating at Commander's Palace, and I've been to Mardi Gras twice, so it's at least seeing at least once in your life. I even have a Zulu coconut. And finally, you need to see the Rebirth Bass Brand at the Maple Leaf Bar on Oak Street. Overall, all of these things I highly recommend that you go see.